Hej och välkommen till ännu en författarintervju. Den här gången träffar Alexandra på Livsenergi Pam Grout som är frilansskribent och författare till ungefär 20 böcker. Flera av dem har getts ut på svenska i Livsenergi och blivit väldigt uppskattade. Titeln i kvadrat är ett exempel. Den gavs ut för 5-6 år sedan. Hennes senaste bok heter En kurs i mirakler, Avkodad. Pam Grout har följt den andliga klassikern En kurs i mirakler varje dag i mer än 25 år, så hon har en gedigen erfarenhet av denna ganska tunga, komplexa och svårtolkade bok. Hon har också fått många chanser att tolka varje så kallad lektion och göra den mer lättillgänglig och rolig. För er som känner till Pam så vet ni att humor är en viktig ingrediens i livet och man skrattar ofta och gärna i samtal med henne eller när man läser hennes böcker. Så är även fallet med hennes senaste bok. I vårt samtal berör vi hennes liv med En kurs i mirakler, hennes favoritlektioner ur den och mycket annat. Men framförallt pratar vi om livet. Pam berättar generöst om händelser ur livet och vi ägnar en god stund åt hennes stora sorg då hon plötsligt förlorade sin dotter. Att ta sig tillbaka till livet efter det kräver en kraftansträngning och det lyckas hon med. Pam har en färgstark personlighet med mycket energi och hon väljer att se på livet från den ljusa sidan, hur tufft det än är. Hi, Pam.
Hi, so great to talk to you again.
It is, Pam. I am super happy that you have time to talk to me. You were so quick when I asked you for a day and a time, and I am so grateful. Sometimes it's really a hazard getting all those authors together.
Yeah, well, I think because I do a lot of it myself, I just field the questions and the requests myself. I mean, sometimes Hay House sets things up, but oftentimes I'll just do it myself. So it does sort of, cut out all the middlemen, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Plus, like I said, I love your country so much, so I'm always going to be here for you. So anyway.
That is so nice to hear. Let's just quickly introduce you, Pam, because you are the author of our next book here at Livsenergi. And I can only show you, the listeners here, the English version. And this is the English version. The Swedish version is going to print next week. So we are happy about that. And the name of the title is The Course in Miracles Experiment. So we spoke 3 years ago, you and I, 3.5 years ago. And that was just before the launch of Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich, yeah.
Yes, that was a lovely book. Lots of happiness, I figured.
Yeah.
So now we're on to the next book. And I want to hear from you. What is the deal with you and A Course in Miracles? Because this is kind of, coming from that point.
Right. Well, I've been a fan and a follower, a devotee, so to speak, of Course in Miracles for probably 20 years, maybe longer, actually longer, because I was doing it even before my daughter was born. And I've done a lot of other spiritual practices, but I always come back to A Course in Miracles and kind of how the book started. In January of 2018, I started going through the lessons, the workbook lessons, as I do every year. I start on January 1st with lesson 1. And so I was just talking about my own journey with A Course in Miracles. And people started posting comments, you need to turn this into a book. I started getting emails from people. I started getting calls from people, please turn this into a book. So, one of the course tenets is that guidance is available to us at all times. And so what kind of clear guidance is that? So I feel like this was my assignment, so to speak, from the universe. And I didn't know it at the time I started blogging about Course in Miracles. but it became very clear very early on that I needed to turn it into a book. So I sent a proposal off to my publisher that's published my last 4 books, and they said, sure, let's do it. So anyway, that's kind of how the book came about. But as far as me being a student of A Course in Miracles, that's gone on for years and years and years. When you have a brain like mine that can go all kinds of places, it's important to have a practice like this that can rein me back in and remind me of truth.
When you talk about yourself, it sounds like you can be a little bit everywhere. Looking behind you, you have a fabulous painting with lots of colors. It feels like you're an artist.
Well, this was actually painted for me by a professor of my daughter's. It was her Spanish professor at Grinnell College, where she went to university. And after her untimely death, her professor painted this. It just kind of channeled through her. And she sent me this picture. It's really big. I don't know how much you can see in the camera, but it's a huge picture. I mean, she had to send it in, wood. I mean, it wasn't just something you could send in a little package. She had to have it, professionally sent and everything, but it's a real big, beautiful painting. And so I have it hanging here, and it always reminds me of my daughter. But so many things remind me of my daughter. But anyway, it's just one more kind of happy, festive picture that was created in Taz's honor.
We will talk more about that very soon. I just, preparing for this meeting, I kind of kept on crying all the time. I'm going to try to hold myself from tears. So let's talk a little bit more about the book. So, I mean, you have been working with A Course in Miracles for 20 years?
At least 20 years. I mean, I've been doing it in earnest for at least 26 years, but I was aware of it. I mean, I've had so many different copies of it. I've had it until it got dog-eared, or I'd accidentally wash it in the washing machine, or I'd lose it. So this is probably I'm on my 5th copy of Course in Miracles. But I do continue to go through them every year. And while I'll go ahead and do other practices, I always come back to Course in Miracles. And all my books that were the bestsellers, like E Squared and E Cubed, they were all based on the principles of A Course in Miracles, even though, or, parts of A Course in Miracles, even though I didn't build them that way. So really, all my work kind of comes back to A Course in Miracles, the kind of principles they talk about, that thought is creative, that we can't have any thought without it having power. Every thought we think goes out into the universe and creates something. So this book, because that is true, this book, Course in Miracles, just makes it so important, makes us realize how important it is to really put our thoughts, water the thoughts that bring good, that bring peace. I mean, the whole objective is peace of mind. And when you have peace of mind, then everything begins looking different. The subtitle to the book, and I'm not sure if you use this in the Swedish version, but it's a starter kit for rewiring your mind and therefore rewiring your world. So that's really what the whole course is about. As we train our mind to see things differently, then everything in our world begins to change.
Yeah, and probably we have an effect on our surroundings as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, I mean, for those who don't know what A Course in Miracles is, what would you say, shortly?
Well, it was channeled about 50 years ago by a couple of professors from Columbia University, which is a big university in the United States. It's in New York City. And in this particular department, it was a medical psychology department. All the professors, the whole team, there was a lot of aggressive politics. There was a lot of infighting. And one day, the head of the department throws his hands in the air and he says, there has got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than the way we're doing this. And almost immediately, his graduate teaching assistant, which was Helen Schuckman, all these voices started coming through her. And it said, this is the better way. And, this kind of freaked him out. I mean, these are scientists, these are professors at a major university, and Helen Schuckman's getting these voices, but they kept continuing. This is the better way. This is the better way. And so they spent, I think it was 7 years. And it was a joint project, which is what the Course in Miracles is all about. We need to do this together. But these voices would come through Helen, and then Bill Thetford, who was the head of the department, he would type them into really just notes. They just had a stack of notes. And after 7 years, they Xerox off copies of them, like 200 copies, and sent them off to people they thought might be interested. And of course, it just grew from there. Eventually, it was published in a hard paper book, and it's been published all over the world. It's been very popular. But the thing about A Course in Miracles, and I feel like this was my assignment, if you go to any spiritual gathering and you ask how many people have A Course in Miracles, well, 97% of people raise their hands. They've heard of A Course in Miracles. They have a copy. But then you ask the follow-up question, how many have actually read it and done the lessons? And all but a few hands will go down. So it's very, well, some people think it's very difficult to read. And I have to say the reason I've done it for so many years, because it took me that long to even start understanding. And I'm still not sure I completely understand it. But something about it kept drawing me back to it. But it's written in a very dense manner. I mean, just picking up the book, you can do, arm exercises because it's a heavy, big book. So a lot of people start it with exuberance and they think, oh, this is going to be a great book. But then they give up because it's difficult to understand. And so my assignment really was, in fact, at one point I was going to call it A Course in Miracles, the fun version, because I tried to make it a little bit more fun, because I think if something is going to be sustainable, and we want this practice to be sustainable, it helps if it's fun, if we don't look at it as a grim duty that we have to do, if we actually look forward to it. So I wrote it in a way that uses a lot of pop culture references, that makes it easy to understand what they're trying to say. And as the Course itself says all the time, these principles are not difficult. They're just very different than the way we've been doing the world. I mean, we all do the world in problem state. We're living in problem state. What's wrong and how can we fix it? And that's just kind of the way the world is. But the Course in Miracle is more about possibility state, and about seeing this truth that we have, lost because we're focusing in on the problem state, that we think, that there's the scarcity and fear and lack and all these beliefs that we have about the world. So we can't see the truth about the world. So as we rewire our minds, as we learn to do in the workbook of A Course in Miracles, we start being open and seeing more of that beauty and more of that openness and connection that we have with all beings.
Nice. And you took it on to just translate it into me, for example, because I bought the book, but I never opened it. It's like a Bible.
Yeah.
I never opened that either.
Very common for people, but yeah, that's what happens.
So it's kind of a Bible for the spiritual realm, you could say, but it's not religious.
Exactly. There's no religious dogma. They do talk about God in A Course in Miracles. I've sort of rewritten it a little bit because I said God has a lot of baggage. I call it, well, I have a lot of names for it. The mothership, the field of infinite potentiality, infinite intelligence. There's a lot of other names for it, because I think because people have so many preconceptions about the word God, I think sometimes that can get in the way of really tapping into this power. But anyway, there's no religion, there's no requirement. You do this as you feel led to do. And really the ultimate goal is to hook up with this voice. The same voice that guided Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford is here for every one of us. So once we hook up to that voice, that guidance that wants to bless us and give us guidance and lead us onto, marvelous adventures. Once we hook up into that, we don't need these books. I shouldn't say that to a publisher, truly, or to a writer for that matter, but eventually we want to be hooked up to that force on our own. And the book, I guess, is just a way of facilitating that connection that is all of our inheritance. All of us have that connection if we erase all the other stuff that we've believed about the world.
Yeah. And the truth is that we live in this world and we need constant reminders of this source that we can connect to.
Right. And that's why we do it day after day. That's why I start that course again on January 1st every year and continue to do it. Because it's not like you get there, like, oh, I'm there, I'm enlightened now. I think some people do reach enlightenment. Some people just wake up like Eckhart Tolle or, Byron Katie. But I think for the majority of us, we have to use it like we exercise. We have to keep doing those crunches, or keep, running or doing our yoga practice, whatever it is. You don't just quit one day because your body looks perfect. So same thing with our mind training. We have to just continue to practice it day after day.
And I will show our viewers here that it's built on, every day. So it's one page for each day and each lesson, because we call these lessons, right?
Right.
So it's easy read, but it will give you mind work for the rest of the day and maybe for the rest of your life.
Right, right. And a lot of people use it in conjunction with the actual course. You can do it however you want, however you feel led to do it. But I, to this day, in fact, I've had a lot of fun this year because I've been using my book along with the course book. So I kind of do both of them each day. And so it's like, oh, okay, so this is what this meant. So I think that's a helpful way to do it, is to use both, to use my book and then the actual workbook from the Course in Miracles.
You
And since most people have it anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And we will actually have it in the shop at the same time, so everyone can get whatever they want. So you talked about that a lot of references go to the pop culture and stuff, and that reminds me of our last interview, because that's a lot about you. You are a person who are very interested in, you know, the cultural world around us. Isn't that true?
Yeah, yeah. Well, when I talk about pop culture, I'll just give you an example. You guys are familiar with the Bourne Identity, right? That movie, The Bourne Identity, with Jason Bourne. Maybe not, but
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
might.
Yes.
Matt Damon plays him,
Yeah.
but anyway, so I use examples from movies sometimes that people. Oh, okay, they can make that. For example, the movie Arthur. Are you familiar with that? Dudley Moore was it? And he had that little butler that he would
Yeah.
ring the bell. So I talk about the Holy Spirit kind of like your Hobson, like all you do is ring the bell and the Holy Spirit will be there for you. So it just is a way to kind of make it fun and easy for people to understand, like Holy Spirit, what's that? But if you think of it as your own personal butler that's going to come with you with guidance and help, I don't know, just might make it a little bit easier to guide you. So I kind of use examples like that a lot of the way through. And I use examples from my own life as well. So I just want to make it as easy to understand and as just so people will continue to use it. I want to make it, palatable for people so they'll go, yeah, I want to keep doing this. So they'll look forward to getting up the next day and finding out, what am I going to do today? What's my practice for today?
When do you read the course in the morning and let it sit for you throughout the day, or when is your time?
Yes. One of the things in the workbook, they'll sometimes have you think about this once an hour. Of course, I never remember to do it every single hour, but it's just that idea that you're going to use it more faithfully, especially when a disturbing thought arises. We all have disturbing thoughts or thoughts that take us in the wrong direction of where we want to go. So this is a way of kind of using it more often. But what I do is I tend to get up in the morning and I read my Course in Miracles, and I'm a big journaler because I'm a writer, so I love to write in my journal. So I'll look at that and I'll kind of think about what this means, how I might apply it to some dilemma or something that's happening in my life. And then I also do a little 15-minute meditation. Now in the workbook, sometimes they'll suggest 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. So they mix it up a little bit, but I tend to just do a 15-minute meditation in the morning where I do think about whatever the lesson is for today.
That sounds like a good routine. Since you know the course kind of by heart.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I know some of it for sure.
I know that you know a lot of it. But what could you give us your top 3 lessons?
I just wrote a blog post. I haven't posted it yet, but before we talk, because I thought we were going to meet an hour earlier. So in the meantime, I thought, okay, I'll write a blog post. And I wrote the headline for it, I could see peace instead of this. So I do love that one, especially right now when, the world is going crazy with all these fears. So I really thought that was an important one to stress right now. I could see peace instead of this. And as I say in the book, I'm not beholden to see peace. I don't have to see peace, but to raise it as a possibility, I could see peace. And it reminds us that it's an internal, everything we see out there comes from within. And that's a big leap for a lot of people because we do believe it's out there, but we have to recognize, and that's what the Course does, that it's all coming from within, and we have the power from within to see things a different way. And that's where it all starts. I use the example that if you notice your eyelashes or your eye makeup is smeared, you don't go to the mirror and try to fix it. You have to fix it within yourself, on yourself. And that's how it works with the Course in Miracles. You really do have to go within to access the answers and the different way of seeing peace. So that would be one right now I'm really focusing on. I could see peace instead of this. And it works all the time. I say in the lesson, it's an all-purpose elixir, no matter what's happening, just to raise that possibility. I could see peace. You know, maybe I'm not going to. I may choose not to, but it is a possibility. I could see peace here. So, yeah, so that's a real favorite one of mine. I've always, I guess lately, especially after what happened with my daughter, you know, I am not a body, I am free. I am still as God created me. And that's one that's repeated a lot throughout the course. Because when we focus so much on this material world, and that's who we are right now, but we are so much bigger than just this. You know, we have so many dimensions. And so more peace can happen when we focus on the bigger part of ourselves. Like this body is just a tiny part of who we really are. So I do like that one a lot. I am not a body, I am free. And then of course it mixes it up because I'm still as God created me. You know, God created me holy, God created me whole, God created me loving and peaceful. And when I focus on that, I'm just, you know, happier. I'm watering seeds of that as opposed to watering the seeds of fear, the seeds of, you know, scarcity, all the seeds that are out there being planted by the news media, by, you know, so many forces that are, you know, telling us help, you know, we need help. So yeah. And then a third one, let's see, what would the third one be? Let's see. I've got so many quotes that I like, you know, from the Course in Miracles. I've always liked, God is but love, and therefore so am I. So I like that one a lot too. That's another one I could pick out. You know, some people, I just met some course students down in Mexico in December. And, you know, when you said that about, I would know it by heart, I thought, wow, compared to these guys, you could ask them any verse and they'll tell you it's on page 4. I mean, they just know it. I mean, I'm like, how do you know all that? You know, I know more generalities, you know, kind of what they're saying, what I'm supposed to do. But some people, man, they really know all these details. And I don't know, it's just interesting to me. I'm not one of those people.
Remember things in different ways, don't you?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So let's go into tasks.
Okay.
So last time we spoke, you were planning a trip to Stockholm. And we were actually talking about coming together and maybe put some of the readers together. But it was too short a time and it was in the middle of the summer and so on. So we never caught up on that. But you went to Stockholm with Tess, didn't you?
Right. We spent, I think, about a week there, 4 days. I don't remember exactly, but we had a wonderful time. We love your beautiful city. So yeah, we had a great time. And as I was telling you before we started recording, I have a lot of pictures of Taz and I in Stockholm because it wasn't our last trip together, because she went on a lot of my travel writing trips with me, but it was one of the last trips. So I have a lot of pictures of her, you know, as an adult, as I, you know, remember as an adult. So I do look at pictures of Stockholm pretty often. In fact, I have a little altar that I've kind of made with a candle honoring Taz, and there is a picture of Taz and I in Stockholm on that altar. So I guess I see Stockholm every day.
What's in the background of that picture?
I think it's like looking over some of the canals, or I guess you call them canals, the rivers. So we had a lot of really picturesque things. I could go get some of the pictures if you want, but in fact, I could send them to you if you're interested.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I could send you some digital pictures. Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
So I heard that she's no longer with us, and you have said so in this interview before as well. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, it was the biggest shock of my life, to be honest. It was really difficult. And still, you know, grief's not something you ever get over. You just learn how to live with it. So I am learning how to live with it. And I tell you what really helps me is recognizing that it's a really short life, but in infinity, which is what is the truth, I will be with Taz then. So that helps, you know, focusing on that bigger picture that the Course talks about, you know, the bigger realm of who we are. So that's really helped. But what ended up happening, we had come back from my mom's funeral. It's interesting, 2018, my father passed and my mother passed within, you know, 5 months of each other. And they were older and it was expected. And again, I've always believed we're so much more than our bodies. So that wasn't, you know, that was kind of the natural order of things. But literally the day after we came back from my mom's funeral, Taz and I were texting about going to see A Star is Born. It's a movie that came out. Yeah, you know that movie. So anyway, we were texting, we're going to go see it. Let's go to breakfast. And I noticed she hadn't texted me back after, several texts. And so I call her and she didn't pick up. And the next thing I know, there is a police officer at my door saying she was at Lawrence Memorial Hospital, which is our local hospital, and that they were life flighting her to University of Kansas Medical Center. So of course I rushed to the hospital and I went with her. They weren't able to take the helicopter, they took an ambulance, but she had a brain aneurysm. She had a cerebral aneurysm that burst, within her brain. And, I never spoke to her again. I mean, literally, she was declared dead the next day, but she was basically, and they kept her alive. She was an organ donor. So they did keep her body alive until, for 4 days as they got ready to, do all those things that they do. But it was just very, very sudden. And when something like that happens, it takes a long time to even process that, to even wrap your mind around the fact that she's no longer here in physical form. But the way that I really cope with it is knowing that she's still here in my heart, in my memories, and even she sends me signs on a regular basis. We had a thing about 222. So of course I've started the 222 Foundation. So each year on February 22nd, I give a grant to some organizations that are, following her vision. She was just such a creative person. She was big about changing consciousness. So the guidelines for the 222 Foundation are those that would honor, Taz's life. And I don't know if you guys are going to put this in the Swedish version, but in the English version, this little thing right here, that's made by Taz.
It's from her.
Right. Taz made this for me. She had made me a calendar for the Christmas of before 2018, and this was one of the things on the last page. So we put it, there's a black and white version in here, and then there's 2 colored versions of it. But anyway, that was something we had done on a trip where, because I had that catchphrase, as you know from Thank You Very Much, something amazingly awesome is going to happen to me today. So we went through the alphabet, Taz and I, something bodaciously beautiful, something epically extraordinary. So we did all the letters of the alphabet, and so she turned it into this little poster. So that was her writing and her beautiful creation for me.
And it should be kept as the original. It's beautiful. My translator, she asked me, "You don't translate this, do you?" And I said, "No."
Yeah, I guess that would be a little difficult. Yeah.
Well, definitely with the alphabet and all that.
Yeah.
So it feels like you have read all my questions already, because you already answered some of them.
Oh.
But that's okay. It's fantastic, even though it also feels weird to see how, not weird, but fabulous to see how you are dealing with this, because I follow your blogs and I see what you say about Taz and how you handle this grief. Can you give us your top suggestions on how to actually work with grief?
Well, again, I have used the Course in Miracles principles a lot, but for me, and I'm glad you think I've been dealing with it well, and I feel like I'm doing the best that I can. But behind the scenes, there's days, and I've mentioned this in my blogs, that it's difficult to get out of bed. I mean, it was a big. I mean, she was my only child. I was a single parent. I mean, she was my best friend in so many ways. So it's not like I'm just la-di-da. I mean, it's been very challenging. But again, I've got to practice what I preach. I've got to, as they say, smoke what you're selling. So so I guess, again, the biggest factor I think that's helped me is focusing on the bigger thing and knowing that I will see her again. And also knowing that just like she was no longer that baby, in the pictures, I have pictures of her as a baby, she was no longer that. She was no longer the first grader going off, in the cute little flower dress. She was no longer the junior high student. She was evolving into different phases of her life. She grew into the beautiful, wonderful adult that she was. And now she is a spirit. I mean, only a spirit. I mean, we're all spirits, but she's no longer in the physical realm. So I've had to learn to, just as I had to learn to deal with new stages as a parent, and as she, went through different stages, this is a whole new stage now that I'm learning to deal with. It's not at all what I expected. I can really feel sorry for myself at times. I can think, oh, I'll never have grandchildren. I mean, I can get into the poor me. I can certainly do that. But I also can recognize how that doesn't feel good. That doesn't help me. It doesn't help anybody else. And if I want to shine my light, and again, I want to have Taz's memory be as beautiful as it possibly can be. That's why when you ask, can we talk about that? Yes, because I love to talk about Taz and the wonderful things that she did. I don't know if you saw the blog post I did where I, had pictures of her and all the different things from her life. I'm sure there's probably a picture of Stockholm in that. I'm not 100% sure which ones I used, but anyway, that's been my mission, is really to keep her memory alive, to keep her vision alive. And, so that's the best I can do. On the first of the month, like December 1st, January 1st, we would always have this little game we play since she was in junior high. And I don't know, have you guys had junior high? That's like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, when you're about 11, 12, 13. So we started this game. Whoever would say hedgehog first, they were going to be lucky that month. So it was like a game. Who could say it first? And when she was in college, she'd stay up till, all hours of the night. So at 12:01, she'd be texting me hedgehog. So since that's happened, about 5 months after her passing, she'll be sending me a hedgehog every single first of the month. And it shows up in various different ways. One time, for example, a friend of mine, her granddaughter was having a birthday party. So I went to the toy store and I said, what's the perfect toy for a 1-year-old? And the store clerk takes me over to this little stacking hedgehog toy. One time I'm doing a crossword puzzle and the clue, was hedgehog. One time, a friend.
First of the month.
So every time I get some kind of little hedgehog. One time it even came from her cell phone, which I have no idea how that happened. But again, in the bigger realm, in the bigger world, things happen that we don't understand. So anyway, that's been a real blessing for me, is to get those little signs from her. So I know that I'll be reunited with her someday. I think we'll all be reunited, all our one big human family, that we seem so separate and we seem so disjointed and mad at each other half the time, but I think we will all eventually come together. And that gives me hope. So that's the kind of thing that keeps me going, is knowing that bigger picture. And you have to honor your grief. I talked about different tips. I mean, if I just pretended like everything was okay, no, there's times it is really hard. There's times I think, what's the point? I mean, I definitely have felt all those feelings of grief, and you have to honor those things, but you also have to recognize that you get a choice, in which one you're going to water. Just like any seed, you have to pick which seed to water. And I choose to water the seeds of hope and possibility, because it just makes me happier. I think it's better for the world. I mean, nobody wants to be around somebody that's always, in pain. So yeah, that's why I do what I do.
I want to read the dedication of this book. So it's for Taz. And you say, I could never live without you, so I don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very beautiful, and it gives me hope that you can deal with this kind of things. I have been blessed by not having those kinds of losses yet in life.
Yeah, but as they say, the death rate on planet Earth remains steady at 100%. We're all going to die eventually. And I mean, I'm just like you. Until 2018, I had my parents. I just hadn't had a lot of experience with death. But interestingly enough, I was always interested in these books about the afterlife. Like Anita Morjani, I don't know if you've read her book. She's a good friend of mine. I've read a lot of books about people, that go to the other side. So for whatever reason, in the whole bigger picture, I'd always been interested in that, but it wasn't because of my own life having to deal with death. I didn't have much. But I mean, my parents, again, they were older. It was their time to go. That wasn't such a crushing blow as Taz, who, of course, was 25. It was 1 week after her 25th birthday. So it was a big blow, no doubt about it.
I can imagine. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, about 222. Are you into numerology?
People have sent me various, definitions or various meanings that 222 has. But that wasn't why we started that. When she was in junior high, just randomly, she started answering everything with 222. Like somebody would ask, what time is it? And even if it was 12:42, she'd say 222. Someone say, how much does something cost? Even if it was $5, she'd say $2.22. It was just a thing. So she started this Facebook page. I mean, she's in junior high, you know, she's 12 years old. The amazing awesomeness of 222 or something like that. And that year, after she created that Facebook page and all of her friends would call her at 222, we went on 2 trips. We went to Alaska, and the hotel room we got was 222. We went to London. The hotel room we got, we didn't ask for this, was 222. So it became a number that we liked and that we looked for. And so throughout our lives, we would text each other pictures of 222 when we would see it, or we'd pose ourselves by some 222 we'd see. You know, that was the kind of thing that we did. So it was just our number. And it wasn't because of any angelic meaning or anything like that. Although when I look at some of the meanings, they do make sense. Although I've seen a lot of different meanings across the board. I don't know that there's one particular one. Somebody says this, somebody else says that. So yeah. So there could be something there. But again, it was more just a fun junior high crazy thing that happened. But it did, I mean, right away after she passed, I came up with the idea to start the 222 Foundation. And, you know, so far we've given 2 grants and both were just perfect places to give the money to. In fact, it's really a cool story, Kate. Right after her passing in October, I had been scheduled to go to India because, and that had been scheduled way before any of this happened. And I was going to be with this Tribes for Good in India. It's a program that works, you know, to work with social media to improve the lives of people. And they had wanted me to come, and I said, sure. Well, after task, I was like, how can I possibly go to India? How can I do this? So I called my best friend from college who had sort of expressed an interest in it, but it was over our Thanksgiving. We have a holiday in the US called Thanksgiving. So she decided not to go. She wanted to be with her family. But after task, I said, you know, if there's any way you could go with me, because there's no way I can go by myself. But anyway, so she went with me. We had a wonderful time, but we went to the Taj Mahal, which of course is, you know, the famous monument to love in Agra, India. And we were like, do we want to go there? You know, is it a cheesy tourist attraction? Well, it's anything, but it's a beautiful, I mean, it's gorgeous. But we went there and come to find out the woman that it is in honor of, her name is Mumtaz. You know, the sheik that made this monument to his favorite wife, her name was Mumtaz. It took 22,000 workers 20 years, or 20,000 workers 22 years to build it. So there's the 222 again. Our guide there, while he spoke Hindi and English, of course, he also spoke Spanish, which was one of her majors. So there were just so many things. So we left part of her ashes there. And then we left, you know, after we'd been there and just were in awe and just, you know, like, oh my gosh, we could just feel her presence there. We go to this little place called Shiro's Hangout. And it's a place where women that have been burned with acid, you know, in India, sometimes guys will still do that. But these women demonstrated beauty and love in a way that, you know, only they could do. They offered free food, free coffee to anyone that comes. And so they came out of hiding because, I mean, literally their faces had been melted off. I mean, it's just sad. But they chose not to focus on their hardship, on their, and to go out and love people. And so we gave the first grant to Shiro's Hangout. And that was like, I feel like Kaz led me there. And then this year, you know, on 222, we actually, thanks to Greta, I'm not sure how you say it, but your wonderful hero there, we planted 2,222 trees. And that was one of three projects that we did. But in honor of her, you might have seen that little clip she did about the trees. And I know she said that we need to do more than trees. And of course, we do need to do more than trees. But it was, you know, one thing we could do with the 222 Foundation. So anyway, and we're building a school in Nepal, and I'm going to go there, and it'll be the Taz Grout School. And then we've got, you know, the forest in India with these 2,222 trees. And then I also funded a project that was sort of a creative project called Random Acts of Money, where this woman's making these beautiful little trees of dollar bills and leaving it around for people, just to say, you know, the universe is beneficent. You know, we think it's, you know, that there's money's limited and hard to come by, but this is a way of proving that it's different. So this artist is making all these things and leaving them in honor of the 222 Foundation. So those are the 3 things that we funded for this year for 2020, 222 Foundation.
Thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she would be so happy to, or actually she probably is very happy to see.
Right, that's how I like to think about it, that she is very happy. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's think of it that way. So we already know that you get signs from tasks. Do you have any tools that you use in order to get in contact when you need it with her?
Well, I feel like it's as simple as sort of asking her, feeling that she's here and then asking her. And then, she comes to me in dreams. I will sometimes communicate with her in my journal. So I access different things like that, but mostly just keeping my mind open to the fact that she is still here, that she is still very much a part of my life and very much a part of everything I do. So, and I think it's funny, you had asked, can we talk about tasks? And for me, it's like, I love to do that because that keeps her alive for me. And I think some people feel like, oh, I shouldn't talk about that, or I shouldn't, so I just want, for me, I love to talk about her. And to me, she's very much alive, not in the same form, but very much alive.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, you must have kids. It's just so, yeah. How old are your kids?
They are, God, I didn't think this would happen. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries.
I'm part of a big family, lots of siblings, and I have a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old.
Ah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you're very lucky. Hug them a lot,
I do. I tell them I love them every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mom, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do what I can. So I'm just going to shake this off a bit.
Yeah.
I hope you're okay with it.
Oh no, I'm touched. I'm very touched. Thank you for honoring her in that way. Yeah.
So, what about you? What do you do when you don't write books or blogs?
Well, I've been in a little bit of a process of, deciding what is my next mission, because, this Course in Miracles experiment was my 20th book. So, I mean, I'm sure I'll probably write another book, but at this point, I'm waiting for my assignment. I have been feeling drawn to spend more time out in nature and actually go to some of the old growth forests that are left in our country. We've just, decimated our our forests in so many ways, but I feel like trees, they've been around for, some of them, thousands of years, and I feel like they know things that, the rest of us, we humans think we're the Lord and Master over everything, but we are part of this whole natural world. So I'm being called, I feel like, this year to spend some time well, I mean, I can go in nature just right outside my home and, in my town, so to be outside more, but also to actually go to some of these old growth forests.
Do you have a motto in life?
Not really. I just a motto. No, I might have different mantras that I might, like certain times, like right now, I mentioned that I could see peace instead of this. So that's one that's kind of working for me right now. So I tend to move around. I have used that. Something amazingly awesome is going to happen to me today. That's been a thing that I've been known for. That's a hard one to say after losing Taz. I've had to, rethink that, although I still love it. I still think it's important for people to set off their day with, a good expectation. But this isn't necessarily a motto, but I think one of the things I like to tell people, it's important to be suspicious of those voices in your head. The voices that tell you you can't do this, or you're not good enough, or whatever they might be. I think it's important to, not listen to the voices in your head as much, and listen to your heart, listen to spirit. So that's not necessarily a mantra, but that's one of the things I think about a lot.
Yeah. That's nice. It's funny and still very deep and
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
Do you still live in? Last time we spoke, you were in Kansas, right?
I still live in Kansas. In fact, I've got Taz's bedroom. She painted all the walls and all these fancy things and has things hanging from the ceiling. And she always said to me, Mom, you can't ever move. I mean, because I traveled a lot, and I'd go different places for months at a time. But she always wanted me to keep this home. So I feel like I'll probably always keep this home. And I do spend a great deal of my time in Kansas. But I also, travel. Like I spent, the month of December in Mexico. I didn't really want to be here for Christmas this year. And I went down to a Course in Miracles community in Mexico and just had a wonderful time. So yeah, I'll continue to do things like that, but I'll probably always keep this home here in Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas. It's so nice.
Like Dorothy from Wizard of Oz. Like Dorothy from Wizard of Oz.
That's right. Well, Pam, I think that we have we had a lovely time here.
Yes.
I've been moved to tears, and you're still, the rock just standing there. Thank you for getting me through this.
Oh, well, thank you for your tears. Tears completely honor me. And believe me, I have so many tears myself. And I think tears are a cleansing, beautiful thing. And so I'm just honored. I mean, it shows me that you really feel me deeply. And I so appreciate that. Yeah.
You look so lovely in your hat, and I see that you have hats all over the place.
I do.
You do, right?
Yeah. But here's a funny thing. I had one hat that I wore over as my signature hat, particularly when I was travel writing. And Taz always disliked that hat. She goes, Mom, you need to get a new hat. I don't like that hat. So when I went to India, that hat disappeared. And the thing that's funny, it had disappeared many times. I lost it in Kenya once. It came back to me. I lost it in Belize once. It came back to me. But after Taz passed and I went to India, it disappeared and it never came back. And Taz said, okay, Mom, if you don't want to get rid of it, I'll get rid of it. So who knows where that hat is, but I thought that was kind of a funny little thing. So, but yeah, I do like hats. I'm kind of a hat collector even. So
yeah, it's nice
so,
though.
They work when you're having a bad hair day.
That too.
Yeah.
I like hats too. Shall we end this meeting with the hat thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. It's been so nice to talk to you.
It's been wonderful to talk to you too. I was really looking forward to this meeting after our 3.5 gap.
Yeah, well, hopefully we won't wait 3.5 years to talk again.
Hopefully not. Super. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Day and weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.